I'll start with just to thank you again to Joseph, to Matt, to Maureen. This is wonderful to be here again. I heard a story when I was in a math class in undergraduate, and it began with the lecturer coming to start the class with just like a note card, and guess what it had on it? It was to try to remind him to say hello to the class. And so I'm coming with a note card, but it has a few notes on it, not just hello. What I want to title the next maybe 3.5 minutes or 4 minutes is on the creativity of the American worker. And so as we think about the future of the American worker, we also have to think about the superpower that the American worker has, which is around resilience and creativity. So there's going to be 3 main points that I make. The first is that just around some of the empirical literature that economists have documented over maybe the past 20 years or so is on the rise of labor market polarization. So I'm going to begin with a little bit of a sobering note, but then it's going to get incrementally more optimistic and more cheerful about the future. Perfect timing for lunch. You might already know some of the papers that David Otter, David Dorn, Gordon Hanson have written about labor market polarization, which refers to the kind of thinning out of the middle class and the rise on the tails. So a higher share of the population that's low wage and a higher share that's high wage. And so I think that there's general agreement that we need to find ways to reinvigorate the middle class. And then the question is, well, how do we do that? How do workers come together? How do firms partner with workers, and so on? A recent paper that I just released with two colleagues, Travis Cyranek at the Bureau of Labor Statistics and Adam Bloomfield at the FDIC, we used new data from the National Compensation Survey, which, and the reason why I mention this is because a key point that came up in this panel is that we don't want to just focus on wage and salary. If all we do is just look at just annual salary, you miss all the other non-wage benefits, non-wage amenities that a worker is getting. And so what we really care about is total compensation. And that ranges from things like the culture, it ranges health benefits, it ranges from obviously employee ownership. And so it's really hard to measure that because the current population survey by the BLS doesn't have that data. Then NCS does. And so one of the things that we actually find, and again, this is a little bit of a sobering note, is that the increase in inequality was actually concentrated among the higher wage. So let me put it differently. The increase in benefits was concentrated among higher wage workers. So if you're getting paid more in wage and salary, you're also getting higher benefits. And so that kind of exacerbates the rise of inequality. And so part of this discussion, I think today, is around the emphasis that non-wage amenities really matter, and we have to think about how to raise them. Point number 2 is around smart industrial policy, smart labor policy. And there's a paper, another paper that I have with a colleague named Juhan, which shout out to one of the our early SMLR meetings in January. I met Ju at one of the conferences that Joseph was organizing. And so we wrote a paper about how technological change affects the worker using data from Gallup between 2008 and 2018. And one of the critical factors was the role that trust has within the organization. So we show that there is this overall positive effect of technology on worker well-being, which we measured using life satisfaction indices by Gallup. But we showed that it was heavily moderated by whether or not the workers actually trusted their management. Again, not a huge surprise, but it was really interesting to have that borne out in the data. And so I think when we think about what mechanisms are going to fuel trust, ESOPs, employee ownership, is part of that, because then everybody thinks as a team. And just to echo Adria's point as she was kind of wrapping up, was that you think about appreciation, development, and training opportunities. Those are, I have a paper on this as well, showing it's the biggest predictor of employee engagement. And so, yes, pay matters, but feeling like you have self-worth and having that affirmed by other people in the organization is absolutely critical. Last point to make in the maybe one and then 1.5 minutes that I have is on the people that are on the sidelines. So there's a nice paper. I think there's like 6 or 7 co-authors on this paper, and I feel like maybe one of them is from Aspen. But the gentleman that I remember who led this up is Peter Blair, and the acronym that they use is STARS, and it stands for Skilled Through Alternative Pathways. And so a lot of people have been saying, and I think this goes to Chris's point, that a lot of times people say, well, manufacturing is gone. The middle class is kind of like, I mean, they don't say think most people don't say middle class is gone, but a lot of people say manufacturing is gone. And I think where we collectively agree is that there are opportunities, but we have to be very intentional about it. And so what Peter Blair and others on this paper are making is that there are plenty of people that are actually skilled to do the work. It's just that maybe they don't have a master's in computer science, maybe they don't have a PhD or whatever college degree, but that's okay, because to do a lot of the work that we need in the future doesn't necessarily require those traditional credentialing pathways. And we need to think about new credentialing pathways. And so their paper estimates that there's maybe about 16 million people that are just on the sidelines, called stars, that we could integrate into the labor market. And so just kind of landing the plane on as we see the rise of generative AI and AI solutions out there, just really want to double click on the point that it can be a complement, and it has to be part of the design that organizations embed. When we think about the way the generative AI can sort of like break up tasks, and that you could be handing your task to somebody else, and then that kind of all comes together through the rise of agentic AI, there's a lot of possibilities, but these possibilities are going to require piloting, experimentation, and it's not going to just kind of come for free. So we need to really work hard at it. So let me just say thank you again for the opportunity to be here and to listen to the panel and to be here for the rest of the day as well. So thanks so much.